The IAC, the Identified Alien Craft, stayed for over an hour to about 3 hours, yet so much has happened to me in the last couple of months, it barely made an impact on me. I was lucky to be alive. I'd seen these beings up close and personal. I've interacted with both them and their interdimensionals, and now their craft is in the sky above my house. So my wife goes inside and she gets the camera. She starts shooting it, but so much stuff has disappeared from my house. My books, original documents such as files and journals that I kept. So I am observant, and I'm looking around, and I know who's involved and who isn't, and I see them all in the window. And they all come to the window to see what we're looking at. And even though they keep their poker faces on, I could tell that they're a little bit excited, and they're all on the phone, calling the headquarters, to confirm that yes, there is a UFO hovering above the neighborhood, outside of our condo complex. I don't know if it was showing up on radar or not. They could block those things, but... So my wife records it for about 10 minutes, and we ended up going inside, and it was still up there. So it's about 9 o'clock then. My wife starts putting the children to bed, and it was not uncommon for me to stay up and watch things for at least a few hours after everyone went to sleep. At this point, I'm not even, as I'm learning all this that's happening to me, I'm not even caring about documenting any of this. As far as I'm concerned, I'm lucky to be alive, and I'm learning this. It might cost me my life, but that's what I paid to learn what I learned. So, excuse me, but I didn't really care about documenting it. I was just learning this. I didn't think I would make it this far. So whenever any evidence that you're able to obtain mysteriously disappears from your house the next time you go out, sooner or later you just stop deciding to bring your camera along. I believe I still do somewhere have a disc with this UFO, though the disc that my wife recorded. It's a Sony camera that burns the images right onto the disc. So I have to go looking through all our discs here. We have quite a few to find this, and hopefully it hasn't disappeared. But so much, as I said, has disappeared over time. So much evidence just winds up property of the United States government. Why bother? So I'm just making the best choices I can make. I'm trying to stay as careful as I can, keep my kids as safe as possible. And I'm just living day to day, going through this, learning what reality is really about. So before I go to bed, I go out and I look out the window again, and I see it's still out there. So I go upstairs to check on the children, and I could see in the dark an eerie green illuminated figure bending over one of my children's bed. Both my children are sleeping. It's around 10 or 11, and I walk in and see this apparition leaning over my children's bed. I take a step to it, and it turns, floats toward me, and I see it's this hideous, disfigured, Grim Reaper-like image. It stops and glares at me for a moment, and I'm looking at this thing wondering if this is a ghost or what the hell this is, and then it floats basically through me and goes out the door into the hallway. So I run out to the hallway to look for it, and it disappeared out there, and I turn and look back, and then I see the quote-unquote ghost-like apparition is back, and it's been leaning over my daughter again. It stands up again and approaches me in the same fashion, appears to glare at me, then goes through me, and it goes back into the hall. Now this has traumatized a lot of people in the past. A lot of people have reported these large bug-eyed creatures that float down hallways and scare people. Nothing phases me no more. So as I'm sitting here looking at this thing, I realize that this thing is on a repetitive pattern here. This isn't real. This is some sort of advanced hologram that was projected into my children's room. And they had programmed it to follow a certain procession, which was to lean over my daughter to create a threat of a creature staring at my daughter. But when I approached it, this transparent image appeared to float towards me and then out the door and disappear into the hall. I had to get through this for mine and my family's sake. I hadn't lost it yet. And when I did need that extra help, and by the grace of the Holy Spirit, it was provided. But it all happened so fast and so violently that I really couldn't stop to reflect on all this as it happened. The sheer hatred and injustice of some outside force violently intruding not only into your life and your home, but into your own mind so that you don't have any peace at any time. The worst criminals in the world are locked up, they get all their freedoms taken away, but they have their mind to retreat into. They could retreat to sleep. They could forget about it all and just close their eyes. But when something invades into your mind, that's the true essence of evil, because there is no escaping that. So we got the Greys coming down and attacking people through the use of implants and holograms to confuse reality. Now how could you tell the difference between a hologram and an implant image that's being broadcasted to that person? You simply close your eyes. If you close your eyes and you still see the apparition, chances are that's an implant. That's a signal being sent through the implant. However, this was not the case. This was an extremely advanced holographic image. They come at you like you're a horse and they are a man. You're just a little bit of thoughtless nature to these advanced malevolent aliens and extraterrestrials. You're just a bit of thoughtless nature to be tampered with and trained to them. The only thing they're interested in is in thought control. So this is how you guys have your little Cloverfield movies about your alien attacks, but no, this is how an advanced race rolls up on you. You want to hear how an alien attack happens? This is how an alien attack happens quietly. They'll wear you down mentally. They will flip the lights on and off. They'll imitate poltergeist activities. Things will disappear right in front of you. Electrical equipment, basic appliances will develop a mind of their own. Motion sensors will go off with nobody around. This is the normal poltergeist stuff. In the future, I'm going to take a few shots of a couple. I think I showed you one site already in the video entitled Zombies, but I will show you another site where the Bufath were hanging out, and they love hanging out. The Greys, any of Giza intelligence, they like hanging out, of course, in abandoned buildings, and that's why everyone hears about abandoned buildings being haunted and such. They are always observing you, especially people who are on this level, and they like to take up their little operations, and they'll go into abandoned buildings, abandoned housings. I'll take a few pictures of these places. So some of you hear that, oh, the building's haunted and all this and that. You know, the whole world is haunted by macrobes. You know, if you hear about a building shaking, vibrating, my grandfather, who he comes from Mexico, he has a story about him and his brothers that lived up in a ranch. He had 12 brothers and sisters, and they were up there in a ranch in New Mexico at that time. And they went out to an abandoned house, and the whole house started vibrating and shaking. And they ran out thinking it was an earthquake, and it was only that house. The land was still. And there's a lot of stories like this. But basically, I'm going to tell you, when you hear about stories about people being possessed and poltergeist, this and that, it's most likely the Greys. And they like toying with you and confusing reality. And I'm trying to explain to you guys that they do it in specific ways to get you to hate each other and to fight each other. All just to tamper with your mind and mess with you. So as I'm standing there in my children's room seeing this apparition go through its little thing, it's transparent, of course, it's illuminated green, it's see-through, it's this grotesque thing, I can't stop it. It just keeps on doing its little thing, leaning over my daughter, standing up, glaring at me, kind of going past me into the hall. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I go back to the window and look out and see that the bell-shaped UFO is still there. And I say out loud, "Is that supposed to be you?" Referring to the apparition. Mm-hmm. And that makes me angry, and I say, "I know that isn't you. I know what you look like." And they began to laugh. And I say what I usually say when I get pissed off, which is some rude ass shit. I tell them to come down and face me. I'll take an axe to them, etc., etc. They continue to laugh. And I say, "So you got that nice big UFO out there, huh? You go anywhere in the universe, but you choose to come to my house and project these freaking insane holograms in my house? How depraved are you?" And again they laugh. So they find that real funny, and they say, "That's affirmative." And I thought, well, f*** you. And they hit me with a huge amount of pain, just to show me who was in control. Bringing down the whip. "You will learn your place," they warned me. So I do what I always do in this sort of situations. I sat down on my children's floor and I began to meditate. Clear my mind, stay calm. I can't run out and start yelling about holograms. I can't go to some doctor and explain any of this. You're on your own. You got to stay tough, because some of you are going to go through the same thing I'm trying to tell you about. You got to stay strong. So I sat there and I meditated, and I stayed there in case my children woke up and they wouldn't be traumatized by this horrible figure. And I meditated, tried to get through the pain. And nights pass like this. And the next day will be something new. Some new game they'll play.